Yeah, thanks. Good to be on the meeting. I really wanted to cancel today. I've just had a little nap. I've had a bit of a tough day, and yeah, my first kind of thought when I'm having a tough day is just to really isolate and stay within myself and not see anyone or talk to anyone. So I really, really wanted to cancel, but when I say yes to service, unless there's a real emergency, I try to kind of have that integrity and do what I say I'm going to do. So here I am. My name's Nicola, compulsive eater. I weigh and measure 3 meals off the grey sheet. I write them down. I commit them to my sponsor, and I don't eat in between my meals no matter what. My abstinent date is the 17th of March 2019, and I came into GreySheet in August, so I got my back-to-back abstinence in the March of the following year. So it still feels like such a miracle for me to be able to say my abstinent date. And it feels like a miracle that I've got that amount of time, because it took what felt like ages of many, many day ones and many relapses before I got there. And I'd been in another program that weighed and measured as well for about a year and a half before that, trying to get abstinent. So it wasn't something I just came into, got abstinent, found it easy, and that was it. It was difficult. I've been using food my whole life, and I hadn't realised, and it had been my kind of go-to defence mechanism for any kind of problem with life that I wasn't happy about, or even when I was happy, it would be something I would go to make myself feel even happier than I was. And I'd been in a lot of denial around my food for a very, very long time. I was 7 years abstinent in a food and alcohol program, 12-step program, before getting here. And I had heard about food programs. I've heard about OA. I knew some people that were in it. Whenever I'd heard it mentioned, there wasn't ever a part of me that ever felt that I needed to be there. I didn't come from large numbers, or was larger than I am now, but I wasn't, probably about 14 pounds, maybe 20 pounds at most larger than I am now. So it's kind of easier to stay in denial when the outward signs didn't necessarily show that I had this huge eating problem. And I think the kind of what I call the kind of like low level but constant nagging shame and guilt around the way that I use food had always been there from probably late teens, early 20s, and I'd been so accustomed to it and so used to it that it was normal for me. I didn't know that there was anything different about it until I got abstinent. And I hear people say, I came for the vanity and I stayed for the sanity. And that was definitely me. I kind of came in, I wanted to lose weight. I was struggling to do it on my own. I came into a 12-step weight and measured food program. It wasn't GreySheet. But I went there to lose weight. I just thought they'd be able to help me follow a food plan where I could lose weight, have a bit of accountability, and then I'd be off on my merry way, being able to eat all the foods that I was eating before. And it was only when I started putting them down and hearing other people's stories and the way that they ate, and when they talked about the obsession and the allergy and how we pick up certain foods, and when we do that we can't stop, and when I started hearing that kind of language, that kind of the penny started to drop. And I feel like for me, like the penny didn't drop slowly, it was like a big whoosh bang. Oh my god, I'm a food addict. What? I've always had this problem, I've never known about it. And it was a real kind of dent in my pride, I would say. I really struggled with my pride around it for a really long time, and that kept me picking up the food for a long time as well, because I just didn't want to admit that I was this food addict that you guys were talking about. And I didn't want to have to weigh and measure my food for the rest of my life. That's the truth. I didn't. I found it really difficult at first to, I'm not one for preparing and planning anything in life. I'm a last minute person. I thought I was a bit of a gypsy person, moved around from all over the place, and liked the idea of spontaneity. And how was I ever going to be able to be like that if I had to weigh and measure my food and plan my food in advance? How was that ever going to be possible? How would I be able to participate in all these social activities that I participated in? How was I going to be able to travel? I'd spent like 4 or 5 years in my recovery, in my other fellowship, traveling all over the world, Thailand, India, America, off with a backpack on my own for like 3-4 months at a time. How was I going to be able to continue to do that in abstinence? And I think what started to happen for me was I started to just forget about tomorrow and just concentrate on today. and not worry about those things, and kind of follow the guidance that other people had said, and just worry about my next meal, and then worry about my next meal, and then worry about how I was going to manage my next meal. And that's what I did. And I guess that's how I've got where I am today. And at the beginning, I found joining a new fellowship really difficult. I found it much smaller than the fellowship I'd been in before. There wasn't as much Zoom as there is now, although there was Zoom, but it was smaller. And the face-to-face meeting, there was only one in London. It was a very small group of people that attended regularly. And I'd been in this kind of drug and alcohol fellowship where, there was hundreds and hundreds of meetings every day. There was the opportunity to have unity days and conventions and things like that. I'm in London all the time. And I came into this fellowship and thought, I didn't want to jump right in and do outreach calls with people and take time getting to know people. Even in the other fellowship, I was used to these kind of immediate friendships where you meet someone, you feel this bond, and then you're best friends, and that was it. And that wasn't the case in GreySheet. People were older than me, people from different countries, completely different backgrounds, and it took time to build those relationships, and it took effort. And I didn't know how to do that. As much as I felt that I was a social butterfly, I actually really struggled with relationships with people and building relationships with people. So that was a big thing for me at the beginning. And I would speak to my sponsors quite a lot, about just not feeling a part of the fellowship. And I think eventually I remember I got really honest, and I felt that was a pivotal point for me, that I was on a meeting and I just got really honest about how I was feeling about that, and people shared back, and people called me after and they told me about how they identified. And I guess I just one day at a time, weighed my food, called my sponsor in the morning, got onto meetings, did my outreach calls, and that's sort of how it began, I guess. It was only again in abstinence I was able to look back, and I remember all of these times, these different things that used to happen, where I used to go to my sister's house for Christmas, and she used to joke that she had to buy like 3 times the amount of food when I came because it would all be gone within a couple of days. Or I'd go out for food with people, and, they'd get up to leave the table ready to go, but they'd still have food left on their plate. And I would put my hand into their plates and be like, oh, you're not eating that, don't let it go to waste. And I'd grab handfuls of carbohydrates that we don't eat and, be eating them out the door, and I worked in a job in the community where I was traveling around a lot. So I wasn't just stuck in one place. So it was really easy to kind of hide it, because in between my kind of visits, I would be in the shops picking up food and sugar products and things that we don't eat. And I remember times going to supermarkets where I'd kind of walk into the supermarket, and right at the front, sometimes there'd be like a big thing of all the foods we don't eat, and I'd pick up a bag of something, and as I walked around I'd eat the whole bag, and by the time I got to the till I'd have this huge sugar come down, where I just felt so tired and just as if I'd been hit by a truck, because I'd just eaten probably what another person might have saved over 2 weeks in about 10 minutes of walking around the supermarket. Just things like that, but they were just, as I say, they were just so normal for me that although I felt that element of oh, what are you doing, Nicola, or that shame or that guilt or that kind of, the headaches and the stuff like that. It was, I'm 38. I've been doing it since at least my 20s. I don't remember it much in my childhood, if I'm being honest. I remember it more from once I started my first kind of romantic relationship. That's when the food really started to be used as a way to change the way that I felt, I think. And then obviously I had issues with my weight. I wasn't happy when I put on weight. I can go back through my Facebook photos over the 7 years I've been on Facebook, and every year of photos I'm a slightly different weight. Sometimes I'm quite slim, other times I'm much more chubbier, just always a different weight. And my mood, especially when I was going out for a night out, my mood would depend on how I felt about my weight, whether my clothes fit or they didn't fit. And on top of that, I suffer with body dysmorphia, which isn't so much about my weight, but about flaws that I feel that I have on my face. And
10 minutes, Nick.
Thank you. And they just become, super exaggerated in my mind, because I have this illness that lies to me, basically. And when it's lying to me, I don't know that it's lying to me. I believe it's telling me the truth. And anyway, yeah, so just to talk more about the solution, you know, as the days started to build up, you know, I started to realize that I thought that I had recovery in this other program. And I did. I was sober, I was clean from drink and drugs, but I didn't really have emotional sobriety, you know. And I came into this program and I realized like how full of anxiety I was, how full of like this real deep sense of shame that I had, that I'm inherently wrong. Not that I just sometimes make wrong decisions or silly decisions or, you know, do, you know, things that probably not good idea, but that I'm just inherently wrong. There's something wrong with me. And that's something that I've really found difficult in Abstinent, because I have to sit with those feelings. I have to question those feelings. I have to do inventory around those feelings. And often, because of those feelings, they will come out in my relationships, with the way that I speak to people, with the way that I interact with people, with my reactions and my responses to people, you know, because yeah, I don't know. But yeah, so the last year and a bit of abstinence for me has been about doing all the things that I wasn't able to do when I wasn't abstinent. And they're things like looking after my physical health. You know, I wouldn't go to the dentist if there was something wrong with my teeth. I would put it off and put it off. You know, I wouldn't go to the doctors if there was something wrong with me. I would just put it off and put it off and put it off. You know, I'm in a job at the moment that I've been really unhappy at for the last 2 years, but I would just stay and think everything was my fault. I would stay in romantic relationships that weren't healthy and just think that it was my fault, that it was wrong, that it wasn't working out, and just keep trying to like perfect myself all the time. And I think in abstinence, I've been able to see my part, but I've also been able to be really honest about the outside situation too, rather than remain in denial about things and make changes. You know, I'm leaving my job now. I've left relationships in abstinence. I've left a flat share that I was in abstinence. I've moved in on my own. And yeah, so the gift for me of abstinence is this real clarity where I'm able to change my life based in reality, based at looking at my reality, what needs to change and how I can change it in a safe and comfortable way for me. So the clarity of that, the feeling of esteem and integrity that I'm getting little bit by little bit as I go along, you know, just feeling better about myself because I'm not just stuffing food down. Feeling better about myself just because in my body I'm slimmer, I don't feel bloated all the time, I have more energy because I'm eating a lot healthier, I feel healthier within myself. I have an amazing sponsor, and I don't know if I would be here without that sponsor, because she's honestly, she's been like, she's actually been like a mother figure for me. It's the first time I've ever felt that I've had anyone that whenever there's a problem, she is the first person I go to. And I know she'll always meet me in a place of real unconditional love. And that's just been, it's the first time I've ever had a relationship like that. And I feel really lucky and really blessed. So there's so many good things, but you know, I want to be honest as well. I think it's important in my recovery to be really honest. It's been really difficult. I grew up with a lot of abuse. I'm dealing with that in therapy. I'm not using any substance to push those feelings down, so they come up a lot. Today I've had a problem with my tooth, and I've been on the phone to, if anyone knows what NHS 111 is like in the UK, it's absolutely awful at the moment because obviously everyone's calling them. So thanks Denise, trying to get an appointment. I've literally been on the phone all day going round in circles. So that's been really difficult, and I was on the phone to one dentist and I was crying my eyes out, going, I think my tooth's gonna fall out. Do you think my tooth's gonna fall out? You know, just totally over the top, like full of emotion, but also like knowing that that's okay. Like there's nothing wrong with me. I'm just human. I'm on my own. I'm in lockdown. You know, I've got this tooth that's causing me pain. It potentially could fall out. I've got a root canal infection, you know, and it's okay to be a bit emotional sometimes. And it's all right to feel my feelings. I'm human. I'm not a robot. And I think that's what feels really beautiful, that I can have emotions. They can sometimes overpower me. They can be uncomfortable. But within that, I also feel this real thing of they're a treasure. Like my feelings are a treasure, you know, because they're mine. They belong to me. And there's a real sense of peace that everything is okay no matter what. And that, I don't know, I just feel so much more connected to life and to,
Fine.
thanks Denise, and to the world and to myself and to everybody else. And yeah, there is a sense of like joy and peace in that, and I treasure that feeling. I never had it before I came to Grey Sheet, and I have it now, and I want to hold on to that for dear life. So yeah, I'll leave it there. Thank you.